Welcome back. So now that we have our update button ready on the UI, let's try and use it. So I want to make an event here. When I click the update button, I want to do something. So therefore we're going to do this lesson. Now, when you select any item inside your WPF application here, you actually have two choices here in the properties view. You either have a wrench, which is all the properties available. We already used that, but you also have an event here that shows all the available events inside. So what can you do with it? Like I can drag something over it and something will happen, or I can drop something on it when it got focused. I'll get an event, something will be triggered using delegates and events behind the scenes. We don't want to dig into that yet, we might later. But what's important to know is that there's a click event here. And it's going to be whenever I click the button, I'm going to ask a piece of code or a method to be run. So in this lesson I'll double click to show you one way to do this. Next we'll try and do where we select the event instead and add some information, and the last one we'll try and add our own event name. But let's start out with the update where I just double click to actually create an event. So notice when I double clicked, it just showed button update person click over there for a second. Let me just go back to it to show you. So it actually added something here, button update click. Now that references a method inside the code behind, and that's this method right here. Now just to prove to you, let me just two-line this guy, just to prove to you that this method is actually being hit, let's add a breakpoint. So I'll put in a breakpoint, and then I'll start my program, and I'll try to click the update button to show you that you'll actually hit this function now. And the next step for us is to do something when we hit that function. And here comes the program. So let's play around with the thought that we kind of added something, and now we push the update button here. And then when I hit the update button, I should hit this breakpoint right here. Cool, so there's the breakpoint. So let's work on the update functionality. Let's make it so that it actually updates. So what we want to do is we want to grab the item to update, just like we did inside where we want to show the values that are actually, we did it right here. We want to grab the selected item, and then instead of just pulling out the information, we actually want to change the information. And then when we got the item to update, then we are going to store that item inside our fake database. Store changes or update the changes inside the database. Changes in fake database. There we go. So now that should be ready. And when that is done, we want to update our view. Update the list just by pulling it out again, by getting the list back. There we go. So there are other ways to do this. You can do better data binding. We'll get back to that later in other videos later in the course. I don't want to do that in this startup part of the course. So first, we want to grab the item. Let's just steal some code because we already did that up here. I want to pull out the item that is currently selected, right? Then I want to say to that item, instead of actually having person, instead of actually having the name and the email that you had before, we're going to do the reverse of what we're doing here. We're going to take the text from the text box 1 and text box 2, and instead of putting that text inside a text box, we're going to put it inside the current person, right? So we're just switching around the statement here. So we're saying whatever text is written right now, put that inside the person's name. Whatever text is written in the email, put that inside the person's email. And then we just want to update this using our person manager. So let's do the person manager here and say update person, and then send in the person we want to update. There we go. So that's all we had to do, except I also just want to update the list that's already selected, and we can do that just like we did here. So I'm just going to steal the line where we created item source the first time, just to make sure that the list is actually updated. Now this is not something we would do in a database scenario, but it's just because we have this fake database list that we have right now, so that's why I want to do this. Let's try and start this, and let me, while it runs, let me try and explain again what we actually did. So step 1 was we selected the person that's actually selected in the list box. Step 2, we went in and we figured out if that person is not null. Then I want to grab the text from the text field. Let me just finish that explanation. I want to grab the text from the text field and put it into the actual person's name. I want to grab the text from the email field and put that into the actual person's email. And then I want to use the person manager to update the person. When all of that is done, I just want to refresh my list of persons. So let's try and do this. Let's see what happens. So we'll start the application. I will select this guy and I'll write a new name. Call him George. the email, let me change that as well, Sue2, and let me do an update and see what happens. Now George is now here with the new email, and it seems updated here. So I can switch back and forth, and he is actually updated now. So the update function seems to be running. Next time, let's do the delete. See you in the next lesson.